Welcome to the next event of the Resilient Futures Task Force of SCI-Arc. I'm Erik Ghenoiu. I'm the head of the task force, and I'm director of research for the Institute. This is, I think, our fourth event, but we have a bunch more coming up this summer. I just want to mention them briefly before we get started. Later in July, we've got a day on demystifying timber, where we'll have experts on reclamation, reuse, safety, and questions of engineering all around different aspects of timber in reconstruction. There's been a lot of interesting new twists that we want to share with everyone. Then just a week later, we've got the harmonizing approaches to risk. That's with some partners from Chase Bank and some other lending institutions trying to talk about how we can deploy their resources better to support the rebuilding effort, and to think about how we analyze and respond to the question of risk in the future for the new construction and ensuring the buildings that we make as we rebuild the neighborhoods. And so that one's on the 23rd. And then finally, coming up in August will be maybe the biggest one, which is an exhibition of submitted projects. So we'll take as many projects as we can fit in the building, starting with the category of projects that have been submitted or intended to be submitted for rebuilding in the fire zones, both fires. We'll also have a category for kind of ideas and proposals, some urban design work, and we'll show a little bit of the research and analysis that we've been doing here at the Institute, so that people can come take a look. A lot of people ask us if we can just recommend an architect for them or a builder, and we can't. We're neutral, but we can select the best plans and drawings that people submit to us and show you those. And you can decide for yourselves if you want to get in touch with someone. So spread the word on that one. We're opening it up for everyone to be able to submit the projects they've been working on for you and for all of our neighbors. Okay, so, but that's what's coming up for the rest of the summer. Today, the question is cost. How do we get the cost of reconstruction under control, and what can we reasonably anticipate? So we invited some people who know very well different pieces of the puzzle. So we have a distinguished panel here representing the building materials industry, an architect from the neighborhood who shares with me and with, I think, a lot of you, the distinction of having lost his house in the fire as well, an expert from the prefab industry and modular construction, to be able to talk about how that kind of stacks up to more conventional construction and in terms of speed and expense. And then finally, a builder who can tell us what it looks like in the trenches, actually executing houses for people in Southern California. And so without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to our first presenter, and who will moderate the discussion later, John Osborne from Builders FirstSource. Thank you, John.
Thank you. I don't know if you guys can hear me. All right, good. So my name's John Osborne. I've been in the housing industry for about 25 years, and I work for a company called Builders FirstSource. We have about 700 locations around the country, and we build stuff to frame houses and structure, the framing, the trusses, the floor systems, the windows, the doors, the siding, a lot of the hardware, and some of the main pieces of the puzzle. So we have about 2,000 employees here in Southern California, and we've had a few that lost their house actually as well. So we've taken it on as our company to help. We want to help, locally. So a lot of our customers are builders, like Brett. He's a customer of ours. So we're part of the chain of cost. And so today what we want to hope to do is help you understand what it costs and kind of what to watch out for, give you some tips and kind of how to navigate some of the, what would you say, capitalistic businesses, and just to make sure that you can get a good deal, okay, and certainly some creative ways to do it. So turn it over to Scott to introduce himself, and we'll move forward.
I'm Scott Uriu. I've been an architect for 32 years, or licensed architect since 2003. I teach both here at SCI-Arc and USC since 2010. My practice is a little bit all over the map, but as of late, it's definitely concentrated on residential as well. Obviously, with the rebuild, et cetera, though too. So I have a pretty wide range of all sorts of different residential projects, though too. I always, sort of describe these things as if it's probably a horrible analogy, but like cars. So it's one could be a Nissan, one could be a Bugatti or something like that for the sort of same sort of drawing maybe, but it's really figuring out what is what. Anyway, so I will hand it off to Ernie.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Ernie. I work with Plant Prefab. I've been there 7 years now. I'll be going over, explaining a little bit of what the understanding of what we do. A lot of people, when we talk about modular build, they think about trailer homes or pre-construction tiny homes. We are capable of doing that, but I really want to give you guys an educational view of what our facility can do. So yeah, I'll be going over that.
Hi, good morning. My name is Brett Trebil, founder of Trebil Construction. I started within the construction industry when I was 14 years old. Subsequently moved to California in 2001 and worked for some of the larger developers while I was getting my education at Pepperdine. And in 2009, I started Trebil Construction. We've done industrial, commercial, multifamily apartments, condos, residential houses. Probably built over 20,000 homes in my career and about close to 1 million square foot of commercial and 1 million square foot of industrial. So goal here today is to try to give back to the community here and help you guys understand where the downfalls of building individually is, as well as ways to try to reduce your costs.
Pretty psyched to have this group of people here. Obviously, there's a lot of education that we all can have. So last night I went out on a date. I moved to Southern California kind of recently, and I actually didn't bring my phone with me, which was actually really interesting because most times now we're really attached to our phones, and it's hard to pay attention and really get something. But if you're someone that really wants to learn, and obviously online, if you're paying attention, we want to make sure that we share these things and we get the question. So if you have a question you want to ask, we're going to have some time for Q&A, but think about it, and really appreciate all of you being here. So we'll start with just thinking about the overall cost to build a house. And up front, you need architecture and engineering and code compliance. So how much is that going to cost, Scott?
Well, yeah, that's hilarious. It depends on which direction you go with sort of quote unquote the architecture route. Typically, a lot of, I can't even remember. Oh, I threw these together last night, and these are sort of like wild ass guesses. And maybe I wouldn't call it that, but, and this is just sort of for a 1,700 square foot sort of house is the thing. So typical architecture fees range from somewhere around 5-6% to 15% or more. They tend to be, so the sort of thumbnail that LA County is sort of using for its average thing for a build cost is about $650 a square foot. That's just for the house. So architects' fees, et cetera, they tend to be, sort of related to that, but they also can be down to square footage. So that stuff up there is also for a full service architecture firm. So that's, schematic design, going through a bunch of that. And then construction documents is the main thing. And then basically going into construction administration, where you're dealing with, what's being built out there and handling, helping that especially with the client. You're supposed to be a neutral party, but that's hilarious too. That you are basically saying if this is being put in, for per your specifications, per your drawings, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, that's a long way for the architecture fees. You know, the structural fees around $10 a square foot has been my experience of it coming in with that. You know, there's other what else did I put in there? You know, Title 24, all of these, you can look at these, and basically these are sort of, depending on if you need the services or not, you definitely need Title 24. That's, you know, but that's nothing, hardly 300. And then you sometimes, most of the times, will need a boundary survey. And most of the times you're going to need a topography survey. Most of our lots in At.The have a little bit of topography. You don't want somebody designing something and being, you know, a foot off from where they should be, and having to add, you know, extra stairs or whatever. So, you know, there's a bunch of soft costs with that. And then there's all sorts of weird hard costs that people don't tend to put into, and these again are wild ass, you know, whatever guesses. So, you know, a lot of people don't put in, think about a freaking driveway or the landscape, which is also the impact, the LID sort of parts of it though too, where you have to handle water mitigation though too. And there are ways of doing that that's really good as well. But anyway, getting in the weeds. But yeah, that's.
Okay, so that's a lot of information, but obviously there's upfront things to think about. If you were going to prefabricate a house, do you have to deal with all these costs?
So we also have our in-house architects and engineers, but we also have the capability of working with outside groups as with Scott and I'm sorry, Brett. So we do have both capabilities. Further along in the presentation, we do have a video. I'll be explaining more of how that is put together. Do you want me to just go along on this? Oh, is it okay to stand up? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, okay, before the video starts, I just want to just briefly explain who we are. We are a B certified company. What that means is that in our DNA, we take what we do as much as possible to save being eco-friendly. So that's a big thing that for our CEO. So right now we're gonna demonstrate this video, and I'll go through the process of our CNC machines, what each one does. This is our frame. I believe the first one we're gonna be seeing is our Hunt Digger. Now at the bottom, this building was just finished a year and a half ago. It was built to suit. It's 270,000 square feet. We consolidated 2 buildings from Ontario and Rialto to consolidate everything in here in this building. So as Scott's mentioned, we do have the capability of working again with our internal design teams. We do have our standards. We also have the capability of working with any architects and most designs. These drawings here are from our engineers, so you can see a little bit of what they go through. Also, our 3D CAD models are taught over to our supervisors on the floor, so they know how to manipulate the software. So if they have come across any troubles, they'll be able to troubleshoot that situation. If they're looking for information, what type of what that wall is required to have. This is our CNC machine. It's one in California. This is capable of taking in 40 foot long 2x4s. So the reason we buy in bulk for the 40 length is that it's the cost savings already. So we'll do our own cutting. Here really quickly, our CNC machine tags each piece of frame. That's how we're capable of transferring each component down the framing line. So each of our employees knows what piece goes where. Then the frame takes, it's all automated where it only takes one employee to do each wall. This is our sheeting and routing CNC machine. So this one tacks in all the nails and routes out all the windows and doors. Then it'll go to our panelized line, which I'll show in a minute. This is our installation system. It'll read each cavity and have blow-in installation. This is for someone that's looking to do panelized. We are the only factory here in California that is capable of doing panelized systems and modules. We could do both. We have both done modules and panelized homes where the capability would be just if a homeowner wants to have some cost savings in some sort of areas, we can do that. As an example, we've already done a 2,000 square foot home, a 3,000 square foot home under 3 weeks. That was all panelized. We have every trade in our house, within our facility. We have MEP, framing, we do the sprinklers, and we also get inspected by a third party. Their name is RACO. So we are held liable from them to making sure that we're built to specs on what the engineering are approved by the city. This is the finalized product. So again, you'll see modules and panels both go out. And I believe we'll talk about hard costs and soft costs after that, right?
Very good.
Yeah, thank you.
Very good. Pretty interesting stuff. So modular construction and wall panel construction have been around for a long time. So in Southern California today, there's traditionally about 40,000 homes a year that are built, and about 20,000 single-family homes, about 20,000 multifamily dwellings, and traditionally over a long period. And so most of those homes are not built this way. They're built on site, and they're framed on site by a framer that drives up in a truck, and we deliver the materials to do that. So our company also does wall panels and floor systems and cassettes and things like that to help speed up the cost of construction. And that is one of the main costs that you have to think about, is how long is it going to take you to build your home, and what other costs are you going to have until you can get back in your home, and all those things. So this is a great solution. Ernie, how long does it typically take to get the design process and all the upfront work done so that they can do that? And then the second question is if they were, what's it cost for one of those things, like a finish on the truck?
For the design and permitting, normally it will take 4 to 6 months. Within the factory, we have been clocked in with the new facility 3 to 5 months, just depending on the complex of the home, and also just the availability of inventory. Working with like FirstSource builders and building up relationships, that's what helps us pass along those savings. Also, as more if we get quantities of homes, if they're a mirror image of that, and those cost savings are passed along to the customer.
So do you guys have a range of what it would cost for a finished home? Like, and how finished is it? Is the drywall done? Is it painted on the inside? I've been in a lot of factories around the world, actually, and there's, like in Germany, they build these amazing homes that are like 12-inch walls with zero energy, and everything's finished and everything's put in, and they put them up in 2 days type of stuff with these systems. How long does it take to put it up in the field, and what's a range of it going to cost?
Okay, so let's just stick to the 3,000 square foot home. For us, we'll take in, depending on how much of the finishes you want with us, we are capable of doing the flooring, the drywall. We'll do level 4, level 5. We'll do the countertops, cabinets. We have all the millwork in-house. We have the plumbing, like I mentioned, the MEP. Restrooms are completely done, tile. So during transportation, the cost for that within our square footage, what we're looking at for a range for a single family home is 210 to 500. For multifamily is 125 to 175. That is the soft cost within us. Hard cost, it ranges a lot because we do team up with, we do have a general contractor that we work with. Also, it ranges a lot where we don't really speak on that because we don't know what the outcome might be within the site.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. So pretty good range. So it's a wide range. Obviously, you heard Scott say earlier, if you're building the Nissan or if you're building the Mercedes, the level of finishes, the level of materials that you have in there is going to play a big impact into what it's going to cost.
That is correct.
Yep.
We don't do foundation.
Yep.
Utility hookups, all of that is.
Yep. Impact fees. There's a lot of other fees that you got to associate, but the structure itself and all the what's associated with is stuff that you can control in a lot of cases. You can choose and where to buy it, and you want to choose intelligently, obviously. And sometimes, if you let people choose for you, they're going to choose what makes them the most money, and oftentimes the quality goes down and the price goes up. Question. I'm sorry, could you speak up? High pitched roof. They do high pitched roof on? Can you guys do high pitched roofs?
We can do it would be panelized system for the roof system. So again, we take everything into consideration, the way it needs to get transported. So if you're trying to save costs during transportation, if you go past the limitations where you need a CHP escort, that's when pricing goes up. So we'll modify. So again, we'll take your designer's specs and make it module friendly, and we'll try to do our best where we can do all that cost saving for you. But yes, we can do that.
Go ahead.
So some roads are in pretty bad shape. So when these finished houses get transported, has it ever happened that something breaks in the house, the walls crack, or the tiles in the bathroom floor crack, or something? The plumbing disconnects, whatever.
Very good question. We do. So we've been having a lot of tours from people that have lost their homes in Altadena and Palisades. What we have come across now during our product, that's the finished product, when it's going to transportation, we do state on the contract that there is going to be some slight drywall cracking, but that's as much as we've seen. We've never seen a tile break. You guys got to remember, traditional stick built is one form, but we have to build it out to a different, a more rigid, higher limit spec, because it's going to take abuse, lifting it up with the cranes. It's a lot of pressure with the crane. It's also going to, like you mentioned, during transport, there's going to be some shaking, rambling. So again, all of our house, the only thing we've ever had is drywall cracking, which is stated that the general contractor on site is going to have to do some touch-ups.
Mm-hmm. So prefabricated homes, again, traditional, it happens in the United States. It's a very small percentage of how homes are built. Brett talked to you about, hundreds of thousands of feet and products that he's built. So we're going to switch over to thinking how to build it more traditionally. And Brett, why don't you come up and introduce some of your thoughts?
Good morning. So before we jump into the slides here, I wanted to ask a question here. How many people out in the crowd were affected by the fires? Great, wonderful. Not that it's that you were affected, but I'm glad you're here. My background, again, coming back to, we have a turnkey. I have 3 companies, one being a developer, another being a general contracting company, and the third being a framing company. What we do is offer turnkey services for our clients, whether that be individual landowner or people that are looking to build custom homes. If we go to the 1,250 square foot slide for me. So what I wanted to try to show you on these slides here was kind of what it would cost as an individual to build both a 1,250 square foot, a 1,500 square foot, or 1,750 square foot two-story homes. So as you can see here, the cost structure on an individual basis is fairly high at 626, 564, and 505. Obviously, the smaller the square footage, the less you have to amortize the cost over. So that's why the pricing is significantly higher. Now with this is only the hard costs, what it would cost you to build the, basically do the grading, get the site ready to build the foundation frame and complete the home. This does not include any of the costs for your permit, plan check fees, permit fees, impact fees. Does not include your costs for all of your engineering. And so when you're looking at this, these can add up very quickly, and a lot of the issues being that people who are underinsured. If we could go to the next slide where it shows the group. So here we can see our cost structure drastically changes. We're looking at $339 a square foot if you're grouping with 4 other homes on your block. Reason for this is a superintendent or a builder can build one home just as easily as they can build 10 homes on a city block. So whatever the quantity that you can add in and group together with your neighbors would be advantageous for you to be able to reduce your unit cost basis that would be coming from the general contractor and the subcontractors. So such as your monthly costs for a superintendent and for administration costs, also for security and things like this, the soft cost category that's in there. These are the items that can be amortized over multiple homes rather than just having them apply to an individual home. In conjunction with that, you get economies of scale on the cost of building the homes themselves. Now, some of the communities had more cookie cutter homes that would have been the same floor plans as others. If any of you are in that type of situation, I know you guys get about a 10% bump on square footage if you're going to ask for that, but bringing it up to the new code, you're also going to be required to adhere to Title 24. One of the specific ways that I wanted to talk about on how to reduce the costs would be to ensure that during the plan development process prior to going into the city, that you, find a Title 24 designer that will give you different scenarios. So that way you can minimize the costs on qualifying for the Title 24 in a way that would be best cost effective for you.
How do they do that? How do they find a Title 24 designer?
So one that I would recommend is a gentleman named Dave Haggerty with Android Energy. He's been in the industry for probably 40, 50 years, and he does an amazing job of providing the different cost scenarios on how to qualify for Title 24. A lot of times if you go on Google, you're going to find people that'll do it for you, but they're going to do it as to whatever they feel is the easiest way for them to get you to qualify, which is not always the most cost effective. Second to that, if you're looking at your total costs of the home after construction and you want to integrate like reducing your utility bill by having more solar, and if you right size the solar for your home, then you're in turn reducing your perpetuity costs, which is again saving you money, even though that you're having to have a little bit more on the upfront cost. So when you look at these things, you have to look at them in its entirety in order to ensure that you're getting the total value for it. But one thing coming back to, in conjunction with the Title 24 design, is to ensure that you have your general contractor, your architect, structural engineer, mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineers all come together and do a value engineering meeting of the plans, because everything that you can identify and correct prior to the start of construction is going to save you money. I don't know if you guys have heard about the little joke where there's a small dinghy tied behind a yacht. The small dinghy is named original contract, and the yacht is named change order. So what your goal here is to reduce the change orders that will happen. Now, there's always spec changes. You might change your mind on the way you wanted something built, a room or the flooring or things like that. So you will have to anticipate some change orders. But to mitigate any of these changes where the plumbing plans don't align with HVAC or electrical, or similarly, if there's complications because of the structural engineering doesn't allow for your ducts to go through a certain area, or making sure that you have the right soffits and chases identified on the plans. These are all things that if you wait until you're actually building it, you're gonna, one, extend the time frame of it, but two, incur additional costs which weren't anticipated in the beginning. With this, even if you are underinsured and you wanna go through getting a construction loan, having all of these upfront costs identified will allow you to be able to make sure that you can afford this, and when you're presenting it to the bank, be able to get the loan easier. So as we can continue on here too, these are just the items of the house costs here, ranging from, foundations, framing, plumbing, electrical. Obviously you can see the entire list here. HERS testing is part of the Title 24 to ensure the home qualifies for the Title 24 requirements. If you want to continue on. As you can see, there's roughly about 39 to 40 trades that are going to be on any given home. And so coordination with those trades and having the right superintendent, right general contractor, making sure to have your best interests in mind is key. So one, I would say, bring your general contractor in as early as possible. At the same time, when you're bringing in your architect and your other engineers, make sure that they can communicate well and that they work well together. Also, make sure that you are the customer. Make sure that your intent is always heard by all parties. Sometimes, not to offend anybody, but architects, they're a designer, they're an artist, and they want to see their art portrayed the way that they want. Well, remember, this is your home and you're paying them, so make it sure it's the way you want. Wanted to open it up for any kind of questions or concerns. I know this was a lot of information to go over quickly. So
the hat right back to the back.
I'm sorry, speak up, please.
Cost, your insurance, do you pass that cost on to your customer?
So there's two different ways to look at the insurance. One being, as a general contractor coming in, I would have my own general liability. But then as an owner, you want your course of construction insurance. So which portion are you looking for? So workers' comp is included in the numbers that are here. So the individual trades will have that already accounted for in their costs when they provide you the proposals. The general contractor will have that incorporated into his costs for his superintendent and his administration. So those items would be covered. It would be a requirement of the contracting that you engage in with the general contractor to provide you copies of those insurance policies. And so the key being, always read their proposal. Make sure you start with the exclusions first and try to ensure that everything, you make all catch-all statements in the contract, so that way it ensures that everything is incorporated for yourself. Highly recommend, if you do go to engage a contractor, that you maybe use the AIA standard forms, because those have good protections for the homeowner.
In administration, you had 99,000 for in soft costs. You had 99,000 for administration. What does that cover?
So that covers, the accounting team, the purchasing team, the people that are going to be monitoring that all the insurance certs are up to date. So there's a back-end office team that works on the job in conjunction with the superintendent that's actually out on site.
General contractor?
I'm sorry?
The homeowner pays that to the general?
Yes. Most of the time, like I'm being completely open kimono on this. A lot of times the contractor isn't going to be providing this type of breakdown. So I wanted to educate you to these costs and basically as ratios. Don't take the numbers as hard numbers because depending on the location, the site, the type of building, these costs can drastically vary. But the ratios will always should remain constant.
Right here. Is this on? Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned realizing economies of scale by doing batches or finding
Yes.
neighbors.
Yeah.
So there's about 9,000 people in a fairly tightly constrained area, and now we're organized along, streets, block captains, but it's much less likely that I find my immediate neighbors want to build the same thing, but maybe 2, 3, 4 blocks over. So can you address whether this economy of scale model applies also when it's on the east and west side of the lake, and how close they have to be together, and if that actually applies to all of Altadena, like how do we actually organize ourselves that we can tap into that? Because I'm not aware at this point, right, like what's happening many blocks over. I'm very tuned in my immediate neighbors.
So I get that this is limited to the geographic region within your particular home and the people adjacent to you. So yes, you're going to get economies of scale on the actual trip charges for the subcontractors coming to the job site if you have, let's say, 5 homes on both sides of the street. But where you're going to not end up with economies of scale is using the same type of plan. So your architect will end up having to design 10 different plans. But in conjunction with that, the overall schedule may be a little bit extended for one person that starts that the home is started for in the beginning, but the overall all 10 will have a lower cost and also have a lower cycle time because it motivates the subcontractors to come over rather than just doing one home. Let's say they can do 10 homes in a day.
Immediately adjacent to each other.
That's where I would recommend that it would be better for you if you can get the people that are immediately adjacent to you. Because if having a home that's a mile away does you no benefit for the economies of scale.
Yep.
Yeah.
Altadena is not a huge place either. And it's a gridded street sort of pattern. So, it takes somebody to drive 2 minutes down the street. I don't think it's a huge, thing. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It is the coordination of, so most larger contractors hate the freaking idea of group building, in especially like 200 or whatever, because it's freaking 200 homeowners, and it's 200, different sort of clients and 200 things where it can mess up their payment and their cash flow is really where it happens. So, coordinating 5 to 10, I think is the way to do it. And or, as architects, we're actually even talking with each other because they don't have to be the same design whatsoever. Most framers don't give a rat's. They don't care what they were framing yesterday. They're only going to frame whatever the heck is on the drawings, et cetera, today. Same with plumbers, same with electricians, how many plugs, where they go, et cetera, et cetera. So nobody's memorizing, some cookie cutter thing and doing the same thing over and over again.
Go ahead, right here.
If I can interject for a moment, would say that I disagree to a point. I have done a lot of infill projects within Southern California, and when I've had a project of 5 homes that was less than a half mile away from the other project, it did necessitate having additional staffing to go to both projects because people don't realize you can't have one superintendent waiting for an inspector on both sites at the same time. These types of things, if there's questions on one job site and you're over at the other, you need another person there. That's why I'm saying the geographic necessity of having them extremely close is necessary. But we can continue on.
Good point. Right here.
One of the things that I don't know if it's incorporated in some of the cost is that when these houses were torn down, 6 inches of soil was removed at the property, and the sites aren't graded in many cases. So there's going to have to be a balancing of site and a certified pad. Is that included in your numbers, or are you thinking about that?
As we can jump down on the site costs, you can see grading in there. That's an expectation of an average of a 5-foot over-X recompact with ABC slot cuts around the perimeter. Now, again, coming back to, this may not be necessary for some of your homes, but this was just a model to make sure that you are aware of the things, to his point, of additional conditions that may be applied to you, depending on who did the demolition and if they took out the slab, if they've disturbed the contours of the lot, that is very well necessary that you will have to regrade the lot.
Okay, so before we jump to the next question, you said something before about getting the groups together, but also getting the groups of contractors and trades together. How does someone go about doing that? Isn't that typically something that you as a builder would do? Or are you asking you're recommending the homeowners direct their builder to do this?
So there's two ways to go about this. One being to seek out a developer or a builder that specializes in doing like a batch community. The other way is, as the homeowners, you guys get together and you could develop an entity, a LLC, that each of you have a portion of the ownership, and then you would dedicate the contracting through that LLC to incorporate each one of your different parcels. Yeah.
All right, we had another question out here.
I'm an At.The resident. My question is theft prevention. What measures or what advice would you give homeowners? And that's a real concern, is no one's up there. You got material, you got tools. What advice would you give regarding security?
So that's an interesting question. It's not just one that you face in At.The. I have a project up in Hesperia where we faced vandalism on every home that I've had built there. Luckily, we caught the people and it stopped, but if it's an ongoing thing, I would say work with your community, your police department, and make sure you're down at talking to your city representatives to help them have the public services provided to help you out with that. But as an individual, obviously you want to make sure that your site is fenced in. You want to have cameras. The Ring cameras are wonderful for catching motion and things like that. Also, make sure that your contractors are not leaving their materials out in the open. They have lock boxes. You can have a bin delivered there that it can be locked up and sealed, or just make sure that they're bringing the materials that they need for that day when they get there that day. A lot of issues with regard to the constraints of infill building is the fact that you don't have excess area for you to stage. So it would help you with the course of construction if they were only bringing in the materials as they needed them in conjunction with that. Now, once the home is, portion of the way built, you may want to consider hiring a security guard. A lot of times I do that. And the other way to handle it is community outreach. Go to the people around your neighborhood. A lot of times there are metal recyclers that will come by, and those people are touring the neighborhood constantly. Hey, shake a hand, tell him he can have whatever he wants as long as he asks for it. And in conjunction, ask him to keep an eye out for your property. There's different ways to do it.
Good. Another question right here.
For the economy of scale model, you already mentioned people might have all kinds of architectural plans. To what degree does that apply to different styles? Say we want to do craftsman, the neighbor wants to do Jane's cottage, and somebody else wants to do a Spanish building, but we're all within the same block. Would that still work in terms of sharing soft costs and using the same services, or would we need to find people that are looking to build in a similar style?
So again, coming back to when we build the communities, not every home looks alike. Obviously, the planning departments ensure that, so that way it's a enriched community. So that being said, the different elevation styles that are for each home are incorporated when builders are building other communities with multiple homes. So it's not an impact to as a builder. Sure, we may, instead of having just a stucco contractor, you're also going to have a siding contractor out there, or a stone veneer contractor. But those guys were integrated during the time of the bid out of the project. So one benefit, though, if the homes are similar and all that the differences are the elevations, then you get a lot more economies of scale on the framing and things, because they can panelize at their site and bring it out rather than framing on site.
And county has a bunch of weird rules. You do have to basically vary your elevation. It can't just all be a stucco thingamajigger.
Yeah.
Did you earlier mention Title 44, or did I miss?
Yes. Yeah.
44 or 24?
Yeah, 24.
Okay.
Okay, so one thing I was actually surprised, Scott, at the cost for an architect. I know we're in the Southern California School of Architecture, but 170, I saw some number up there, it was like $80,000. So what goes into that cost? I mean, or $100,000? It seems like a lot.
Yeah. So it's about 25% again is the schematic design. And it depends on each of the firms, though, too. The horrific thing out there is that you can get quote unquote, what is called, which I think should be, that's recorded, but screw it. I think it should be called illegal for the majority of them, where you get a quote unquote design build firm, because 90% of the design build firms are more about you get what we build firms is really what it is. So, there's a lot of basically working with the homeowner, going over schematic design, going over different variations of getting what they want, the look, feel. In my firm, we also do 3D models, very rudimentary 3D models of figuring out all of the windows, all of the roof pitches inside and outside. Schematic design is that. Construction documents is basically working on sort of two parallel paths of you are getting the quote unquote builder's set, which is basically all of the legal bones that you have for the entire project, all of the plumbing, electrical, all of that, basically, and getting it through the county as well. And then likewise, you're working with the clients again on all of the interiors as well, though, too. Some clients don't need that, so there are ways of reducing those things. What I was putting up there is like full service things. And then again, the last 20, so that's 50% of the fee. And then the last 25% of the fee, again, some people can deal without it when they are experienced and they know what the heck they're looking at. But that last 25% is construction administration, where you're going out to the site and just checking that everything is being built the way that it was drawn or the way it's spec'd out, and or also you're looking at typically payment schedules to make sure that somebody's not, God forbid that it's ever happened, overbilling people to cover other costs on other jobs or whatnot, though, too. But just to make sure that nobody is over extending themselves on that sort of thing. So it's a professional service.
That's
is
a
the
full.
issue.
That's a full.
That's
kinda,
a full service.
That's like a consultant's level service. Brett, how much does it cost you for an architect?
I'm going to bring it out as the engineering and architecture are like a menu. There's certain aspects of the menu that you're going to need, your dinner plate, things like that. But as he's speaking to administration, a lot of the times, if you've been around construction or you know anybody that has, some of that you can remove back. Or if you're looking to be a lot more hands-on with the building process, you may not need the architect to be there, because you can look at the plan and you can know what your vision was, and you're on site making sure that it's built that way. So to that extent, I generally will associate about a 10% of the cost per plan type to the engineering of the plan through permit And be careful when you are looking at plans through getting to the permit, because a lot of times you can get permits on plans, but the plans are still not constructible. So again, coming back to the point of engaging with your contractor and having him bring his subcontractors and all of your engineers and architects together in the beginning to make sure that when you get to permit, the plans are constructible.
Yeah, and I call that it's a coordination meeting, not necessarily a value engineering meeting.
Yeah, but the value engineering is real. One example in our company is if you frame a wall with lumber, you can put 10 studs in a wall, but structurally you might only be able to need 6 studs in that wall. So 4 less studs, but what it also does is it creates more room for insulation. So you can look at the framing fraction and the amount of framing that's done in the home and look to make sure that it's thoughtfully, and that's that Title 24 meeting that you have, which is energy thoughtfulness about how you reach a certain energy and R values in the walls and things like that. So
one more point to that too. Understand, there's kind of a triangle of items being cost on one side, time on the other, and quality on the third side. Now, if any of those change, it's going to affect the other two. So if you want to bring down your costs, obviously the time is going to get a little bit longer or the quality is going to go down. To that point though, sometimes a structural engineer will have your floor joists called out as TGIs. Let's say it's a 12-inch TGI. You can get 2x12s that are significantly less costly and frame the floor the same way, but you might end up with a little bit more flex in the floor. If that's okay for you, if you're laying carpet on that floor, then it's not a big deal. But if you're going to be doing tile or wood flooring, you don't want that flex. So these are the items that you have to consider when you're looking into developing the plans.
And then I'm just going to throw it out there that I know that everybody is worried about costs, et cetera, but stucco is not always the cheapest ass thing to do. It's there are other compatible, if not even cheaper ways of doing it that, are hardy plank, et cetera. And then likewise, I don't know if you notice, all of the stucco things transferred heat right through stucco and into the wood studs, and everything burned down and the stucco wall is still there. Yeah. I would suggest that the really cheap way of doing some really good fire protection is put rock wool. It is mineral wool insulation on the outside. It's a hard insulation outside of the plywood and waterproofing and all that crap. And it does increase your wall thickness. It does increase costs, but that's a really quick, easy way of getting, rock wool goes at like 2100 degrees is when it starts to, and it is non-combustible, has a spread of 0, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway.
That's really good. That's a good tip. So I'm going to give a different perspective. So we talked about banding together groups of 5 people and $210 to $500 a square foot, and then $595 down to $400 a square foot. I've talked to some builders. I work with builders every day, and I've worked with builders, and I know what it costs them to build stuff. So the largest builder in the United States builds their houses for about $100 a foot. Okay, so but
caveat to that
hold on,
statement,
I know, I understand. Hold on, I understand, but I just want to give you this perspective. The reason it costs them $100 a foot is everything that we just talked about, right? They build these repetitive plans. The engineering and the architecture is already done. It's sunk. That cost doesn't exist on those homes. There's the repetition and the trades and the number of homes that they get to build so that they can contract with the different trades to reduce those costs. So you can do a lot of things up front to think about, how you're going to save costs, but you definitely want to make sure what I think about is there's 2 main things. It's the cost to serve, like how much is it going to cost to service me? Think about yourself. How many times am I going to ask people to come to my job site? How much change? How much difference? How much, what am I thinking about that's going to maybe reduce the cost and the burden on someone else? Am I a good communicator? Am I going to be really clear? Are the plans really straightforward so that people can show up ready to perform and not hit you with the change order because maybe you change something on them? That's really, really important, that cost to serve. The other one you need to think about is the hands in the pot. I call it hands in the pot. So Brett is a hand in the pot. Scott's a hand in the pot. We're a hand in the pot, right? So everyone that's benefiting, the electrical contract people to make the manufacturers, the things that are made in the home, the window manufacturers, the siding manufacturers. So one of the things that our company has been able to do is get bigger companies like James Hardie Siding, you just mentioned them, to give discounts to LA fire victims. So if you have been impacted by this tragedy, then you can. There's companies that want to do goodwill. These are really big companies, and they don't want necessarily just to always make money. They want to be able to give back. So those are things that you can investigate. There's our website's mybldr.com, bldr.com. On that site, you're going to find architectural plans. You're going to find a whole library of plans that we already build around the country for other people. That doesn't mean you're not going to need an architect, because they has to be built to the code and the compliance and everything here. But you can start to look at things to really understand kind of how to simplify, and how to maybe be smart about how you build. Does that make sense? Cost to serve, hands in the pot, right? So less hands in the pot. Sometimes, if a very common one in this market is there's who buys the lumber? And do you buy it from the lumber yard, or do you buy it from the framer? You think the framer sells it to you for the same price as the lumber yard does? I don't know. What about the drywall, or who buys the drywall? So some of those things, Brett obviously is going to be able to aggregate and get a better deal than you are as a single person for some drywall. So but just be thinking about how you buy the things. I think that's really important.
Yeah, and or some of the things also again put a lot of burden onto the homeowners too. So I love Foothill Catalog. I think is doing a really interesting service, but I know right now at least they're just going to slide the plans across the table to homeowners and say good luck is the thing. So I think also for homeowners who's never looked at a freaking plans or details or whatnot before, I think that can be interesting and problematic. I mean, it can be highly problematic. So anyway, it's just one of those things as well.
Yeah. Eyes wide open. Go ahead, Brad.
One more point here. A lot of you obviously don't have experience on sourcing contractors and architects. One thing I would recommend is obviously get multiple bids from your architect and your general contractors. With that, take the top and the bottom of those and throw them away. Find the guys that are in the middle. Those are the guys that are actually giving you an honest price. And then from there, make sure that you're doing your background checks on them, talking to previous clients, as well as going and viewing their work product. Obviously, you can go up to a home and see one with straight walls versus one that aren't straight, or stucco finish that doesn't look good, or siding that doesn't look good. These are things that you want to do ahead of time during the sourcing process. Excuse me. In conjunction, same thing with the architect. You're going to want to see their work product, see how much is included in that, as well as weighing that against the menu of the items. But highly recommend doing a little bit of the footwork ahead of time to ensure that your outcome is satisfactory.
And for interviewing architects, et cetera, though too, it's a good idea to see things that are also under construction. Got a bunch of projects that are not in Altadena, Pasadena, Sierra Madre, et cetera, and when things are under construction, frankly, those are the most stressful times of any client as well. And so if they can still speak well about an architect or well about a contractor, that's a really good sign, though too. So.
One more point, the State Contractors Board is your friend. Make sure that you are checking all the people that you're dealing with licensing, and ensuring that their insurance is up to date. Also, I like to say plan for the worst, but hope for the best. And so with that, make sure that you understand what your rights are. They're listed easily on the State Board's website.
State Contractors Board?
Yeah. That is
search.
definitely your friend. It also provides you a lot of information on how to source people, as well as how to protect yourself in the contracting.
That's great.
Yeah, later down the line, you do have to make sure that you get these lien releases as well, though. So subcontractors are really well protected. You know, and this is something more from the 1800s, but general contractors used to be able to hire and fire, you know, subcontractors without paying them. And so now there's a California law where it's mechanics liens that the subcontractor can actually hopscotch over the general contractor if they haven't paid them, and take a lien out on your property is the thing though too. So anyway, there's all sorts of little legal things that you need to double check.
And again, those are on the state board's website as well.
Brett, how would you address that issue? How would you keep from being liened?
So what I require a lot of times is joint checks. So that way, basically, you're issuing a check to your general contractor as well as the subcontractor, or even from the general contractor, subcontractor to the material supplier. This way, it ensures that the final end person that check was supposed to go to is actually, the check is handed to them, because the other two have to countersign before the party that actually gets to cash it is.
So you just say, hey, I want to do joint checks and I want to make sure my siding's paid for?
Yeah, 100%. And with that, you're getting your conditional releases and unconditional releases.
It's lien release is what you want is just to get the lien release to that you know, along the subs each time you're giving a payment out.
You got a question, Eric?
For you. And I'm going to throw off your whole plan of the sequence here. But this is something I think a lot of people in the room are wondering about. It was hard to get all the different subs and labor on the site before two entire neighborhoods burned down. Yeah. And now with the new immigration policies from the federal government, how much is that, can we anticipate that that's going to impact time? And how much can we anticipate that that's going to impact the cost for both for, I think, the modular and for kind of traditional construction?
I can speak to the Southern California market for that. Yeah, the ice raids are a real thing. I've had them on my job sites recently, and yeah, your labor force scatters. But with that, you have to think about ways to entice those people to want to come to work for you. One way is to pay quickly. So, you know, when you're working through getting your financing for the home, make sure you have cash readily available that you can draw from. So that way, one, you know, if you're paying weekly or biweekly, you know, the biggest thing to a lot of these guys are, when I do the work, I want to get paid. So if you're dragging them out working through your insurance company, that's not going to want them to come to work for you.
As far as for us, we haven't been exposed to any type of raids. So,
Not surprised.
Yeah, it's. I mean, for us, it's a control environment. Everybody gets vetted. I do want to touch on a couple of points. I'm not sure if I'm in the middle of both these gentlemen, for the reason that we are a filter between the designers and general contractors. Yeah. I do want to point out a couple of things on gentlemen in the hat. You mentioned of how. Gentlemen, you mentioned of if your home is, you know, a couple of blocks from your neighbors that want to get together and build some homes. With prefab, we're capable of doing that, right? Again, control environment, we're capable of pushing them down the line. Even if the young lady next to you, if the models happen to be a mirror image or something like that, that's the capability that we're capable of doing, right? Also addressing, I can't remember the gentleman that mentioned about theft. We don't have any of that, right? Again, every trade or business is going to have their faults. But we do want to team up with the general contractor like Brett, because as they're building your foundation, we're in tandem at the same time building your home. So that time, it's really what you guys are looking for, the timeline, right? We could build it. We will finish your 3,000 square foot home within 4 to 5 months, while they're wrapping up the foundation and probably going on to the next site, right? It just depends on what everybody's looking for.
You know, not to promote plant way too much, but again, not every prefab group even works with designers, or, you know, it's a little bit like Model Ts. You can have it any color you want as long as it was black. So, you know, the plant, on the other hand, is able to you know, do the sort of crossover to a pretty good degree.
Yeah. So, and one more thing, you guys, I know the biggest thing that a lot of people want to understand is like, what is that cost going to be for you guys? I just met them 2-3 days ago. Our numbers are not that far from Brett's also, from his hard cost, right? You got to remember, the reason we're coming in at 210 or even lower at times, it's just that you got to understand it's what we're building within our factory, our domain, right? What we can control, we get a pocket of homes, we're going to be able to pass that buying power to you guys. But then again, whatever happens outside that domain from us is Brett's call. And from my understanding, all these gentlemen here are really trying to hone down to give you better understanding and help you guys out.
Just set the record straight on something here. I'm from the Foothill Catalog Foundation, Scott. We've spoken a few times, and I know you like what we do. But just now you called our approach problematic. Architecture fees are a barrier to entry for a lot of people, and we're a nonprofit working to create pre-approved plans. And we're doing our best for the community to help people who do not, unfortunately, have the ability to hire an architect.
What's the name of your company?
The Foothill Catalog
The
Foundation.
Foothill Catalog Foundation. Good.
No, and I love the Foothill Catalog Foundation. It's just the second phase of that. Anybody can have all of the drawings and everything like that. It's just sort of the what to do with the drawings per se.
We're working to establish the resources for homeowners and make
Right
sure
on.
that they can be shepherded through the process.
Right
And
on.
Right now, we're working with Habitat for Humanity to build about 25 homes for people in At.The.
That's great.
Nice.
That's really good. Love that. Got some more questions in the audience. Eric, do we answer your question?
There was a gentleman in the back.
Let's keep going.
Yeah, I have a question for Ernie. Can you take a set of architectural plans and bid them against a site-built plan and look at the comparative differences just from the architectural plans?
Yes, so super excited. That's a great question because we are in the starts of integrating some AI into our models to be able to take off your plans and give rough takeoffs or estimates. We're the AI model we're looking at is to turn around within those 24 hours. So yes, we can do that, and then within that range, I'll give you a ballpark of what we're looking at to build out your home.
Okay, and
Make
then one
sure
more
when
question.
you do that, though, sir, that you're identifying the cost categories that are applicable, because a lot of the costs that go into his product are not only the costs that are shown on mine. It would be a small portion of what's shown on the cost that I provided.
But that would be itemized out, I presume?
Yes, you would require your contractor to provide that to you, but you would expect that would be itemized out.
So there's a couple ways that you can deal with a contractor. You can get what's called a guaranteed max, like a G max they call it. So like I can build your house for $600,000, and they'll have figured all your costs, and then they agree to do it. You can get them to sign, and unless you change things. Am I right, Brett?
Yeah, you have a G-Max or you have a cost plus.
Cost plus. And then
Or you can have a marriage between the two as a cost plus G-Max.
And then in a cost plus scenario, what would that look like? How does that work?
So obviously you'd require a 3-bid process for all contracts. You'd identify what the costs are on a budget, and then as the proposals are being signed and contracted for, you are aware of those, and you're basically signing up for a fee-based a percentage of the overall costs for that home. Then your G-Max, again, like I said, is a set fee, and whatever the price is, that's your price, barring any change orders after the fact. Blend of the two would be that, your contractor says, okay, we can build this product for $1 million. We guarantee it won't be more than $1 million, but we do it as a cost plus. The reason why you have that marriage there, to mitigate the contractor's risk, they will give you, if it's cost plus scenario, that should be your lowest percentage. If it's cost plus with G-Max, you're going to have a little bit more on the percentage. If it's a G-Max, their percentage is generally pretty high because they're going to have a contingency baked in there as well as a profit margin.
What would be a range, you think? You willing to share what a range would be?
So the ranges are dictated on the revenue. So again, coming back to as an individual homeowner, let's say your costs are $700,000. That would probably be around a 12% profit margin and a 10% contingency. Now, let's say if you were joined up with 5 other homes, and so we're at 3.5 million. Now, that cost structure on a profit basis would be closer to like maybe a 7 to 9% and a 5% contingency. You know, the larger the number, obviously, the less the on the percentage for the profit margin for the general contractors.
Very good. Very good. Question right here.
I have a question right here. I want to address the elephant in the room, which is stick frame construction.
Okay.
And you talked about it a little bit, but you know, this is, you know, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's going to take time. So we need to look into the future. And no one on this panel is dealing with, you know, some more sustainable ways of building, like 3D construction, SCIP, you know, which is structural concrete insulated panels.
Sure.
And because this, you know,
There's a
urban conflagration that we're seeing more and more of, we have to look in the future. And if At.The builds with stick frame again, it could happen again. Maybe not 100 years, but maybe next 20 years. Because we're seeing more and more of that now.
Yeah.
So
that
I'm
is
advocating
incorporated.
3D, some more innovative, you know, resilient structural
Yeah.
construction, and no one here is addressing that. So
No, those items are considered when we are costing for projects. The downfall with them right now is the cost to do that far exceeds the cost of stick framing a home. And so as when you're looking at it saying, okay, well, we can think about the future. Yeah, that's great for the people that have the discretionary money to then make that choice to go there. But if you're facing, okay, I can't get my home built because doing that exceeds my budget by 10%, or I can go with what's readily available right now and build my home, you know, the person that wants to have a you know, roof over the head is going to go with the cheaper model.
It's real though.
Yeah.
construction, and
Yeah.
we're looking at 300 to 350 per square feet.
Yeah.
And that's mainly the walls and structure.
Yeah.
And the internal walls. But we're looking at that pricing based on what's happening in the world right now. So we're really excited about that. But the catch-22 is that there's not enough of that happening at this point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we have a large amount of homes, but we're trying to move into that
Yeah.
and present
The
that
other thing-
possibility.
The one
to
thing
the
I will
audience.
say though, hold on if I can jump in, you're in the 300 to 350 for the structural of the home basically, right? So in comparison on my production homes, that same cost would be about $40 a square foot. So there's a vast difference between the two.
Well, and also, you know, I
Wow.
love all of the alternative materials. You know, hempcrete and all sorts of other materials are awesome out there that are insanely fire resistant, but there's very limited contractors is the problem. So if somebody has a mess up, then it is a major, or often those are financial though too. So likewise with even prefab, I don't know if you've noticed, but there's been like in the last 15 years, probably 25 prefab people in the area, not plant, that have gone out of business though too.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a dice roll on some of this stuff.
So we got another question back here, but do you feel like you got your question answered? I mean, there is obviously the elephant in the room is that the house might burn down again, right? That's the big concern. There are concrete machines that can print homes. There's other ways to do it. Getting the trades to be able to adapt to these new styles of walls and how they traditionally run wire and electrical and MEPs and other things are challenging, but it's similar. There is products, like I will tell you, I've worked with the Japanese in Japan. There's a company called Sekisui House. They make a ceramic siding, essentially, that makes it fire resistant. So it's ceramic baked. It's James Hardie's is another product that can keep the home, but there's fire rated tails that we put on trusses to make sure that the eaves of the house don't burn. So there's a lot of things that you can do to kind of bridge the gap between this. What's that old nursery rhyme with the big bad wolf? You know, the huff and puff, like the biggest, strongest house. You know, figuring that out. So, hope we answered your question. But we're gonna go back here. I appreciate that. Yep.
Hello, guys. Yeah. I just want to start by saying I'm not really a big fan of prefab homes. But I have a really big question as far as material costs go for prefabricated materials. like exterior walls with SIP walls or like mass timber, for roofs and floor diaphragms. So for me, I'm a residential home builder, with my family company, and what I've noticed is like the biggest cost is floor diaphragms, right? You need to run the hardware, you need to run the joists, you need to put drywall, you need to put insulation, you need to sheathe it, and all this inspections, and then there's error, and then there's waste of materials.
Yep.
And for me personally, like what I can see as the most cost-efficient way for me to build and going vertical is like lightwood frame and mass timber floor diaphragms, because you're taking care of a lot of problems, right? But my biggest question for like these like prefab materials or off-site made materials that have to be shipped over is, what is like the scale where using those types of materials is more cost effective than using standard stucco or just using joists, right? Because I'm like, if you're using mass timber in like a 600 square foot home, with 2 stories, it's not worth it. You're spending way more money just to, deliver to all this stuff and, get your crane out. And I mean, bro, it's just 20 joists. I don't get why anybody would use mass timber, right? So that's really my main question is like, for some of these materials, what is the scale where that is the most cost-effective choice as far as time and labor goes?
Yeah, like Scott mentioned, there has been a lot of prefab businesses that have gone out. The one thing that we've been doing differently is that, like I said, adapting to what people are asking for. We don't just pick and choose what we want to put in the home. It's called out by either the architect, engineer, or even just the homeowner itself. We use finger joint lumber, just depending on what the cost savings they want to do there. So in reality, like everything you just mentioned really happens on the on-site. We don't have that much waste, right? Anything that's left over, we could either use it as temp walls, cookies, for the next project, right? But those cost savings after your project is done, we allocate that inventory back, and it's not forwarded to the customer. So those are the things that we can pass along as a savings for prefab.
Yeah, and sorry, so it's like, as far as like giving a price to a client goes, because I mean, like you say, that waste is going to go to another site, but that means that, when I'm giving my bid to the client, they're still paying for that waste that wasn't used on site, right? And so it's like, I don't want to, sorry.
We're not an A through, go ahead. We're not an A through Z company, so we'll just do like that domain section, and we cater to the general contractor. We deliver to them.
One thing I want to mention to you that would be beneficial for your personal company would be to find a marriage between the two. Work with your subcontractors or your framing houses that will do panelized walls or sub-paneling construction at their yard, and then bringing those out so that you mitigate that waste that you're speaking of.
Yeah, we do that. Our company does that, and you can think about, like you said, the ways to build it, and if it was you would use mass timber, and that would be the way to go. But there's a lot of bridges in there. There's it's almost like a paradox of choice between all the different choices you can have. So it can get kind of complex. But again, communicating with your trades and understanding what's possible, and getting the 3 bids. Making sure that you're getting transparent and figuring that stuff out.
And I love CLT, but double check that it's legal in your, that you can use it as a diaphragm.
It's crazy. There was a home in,
it's totally crazy.
Yeah, that last year you saw that 3-story with Florida. And what's crazy to me is like, dude, how are you making that in LA and it's code? And I go to the city, and obviously, like how it is, it's that nobody knows what's going on because nobody knows what's going on ever, right? And that's just the truth. Yeah, that's the truth, right? And so, I try to do my research, because, I'm interested, right? And it's like, it's not even clear how they got their stuff taken care of, because if you go to like groups like Case Management in LA, if I want to ask them that question of like, hey, I have this plan where I want to use this material, I want to do a preliminary plan check, I talk to the guys, they don't, I don't want to curse, they don't care about me, because it's like they literally are, if you don't meet the criteria, they will not care about you. So you either have to take the risk of submitting a full plan with structural, and maybe your design doesn't work, and you have to spend more money, or, what I mean.
Often what they're doing is they're just using that as an infill. It's structurally actually being held up with something else, not the CLT per se is the thing. So hilariously.
We can give you an answer on that one if you just give the mic to the French engineer woman right next to you. This is here's a preview of the timber event that's coming up next.
Yeah, we wanted to thank the homeowners for their questions, because this is a feedback that we've received a lot from homeowners. I'm part of the task force with SCI-Arc, and a lot of folks are saying, yeah, this elephant in the room is timber burns, right? And the analogy I had when I was answering these questions to homeowner is saying like, oh, my uncle had a crash in his car and I'm never set foot in a car ever again, right? Well, the response to fire resistance of timber is in detailing. So Scott was mentioning, you know, having insulation just in front of the joists can significantly reduce the temperature those joists get into, and your house won't burn. Or detailing in the gutters and such. So we invite you to come back at SCI-Arc. We'll have a tremendous amount of information on timber. The event is called Demystifying Timber. It's on July 16th, if I'm not mistaken, here, and we'll just talk about timber and fire and how it is a sustainable and fireproof material. And back on a comment that was done a bit earlier about 3D printed concrete home, I'll remind you that 3D homes, are they going to cut my mic on that? 3D printing homes use a lot more cementitious materials, and that makes it like numerous more climate impactful than timber. And timber home could be a third or less of the carbon footprint of concrete. So, you know, when we talk about sustainability, let's make sure that those technologies are able to preserve the environment and yeah, make it fire-proof is what we'll talk about in mid-July.
Really good. Question right here.
Me? Oh, hey, I'm curious about it seems there's two different numbers thrown around about how long it takes a panelized build to happen. You mentioned 3 weeks, then you mentioned 3 to 4 months. Can you just clarify how long it would take to build like your average 15 to 2,000 square foot home?
Yeah, no, thank you for bringing that up. It might kind of help solve so panelized, like Brett also has done panelized systems. The panelized system, if it's an open concept, just sheeting, MEP routing through our CNC machines, we could ship it with windows and cut out doors. 3,000 square foot home, that's about 3 weeks for us. A module home, sorry. So to clarify, if we're doing your module homes, a 3,000 square foot home, we'll take your model, we'll make it module friendly, and that would take us between 4 to 5 months with all finishes.
So to give you a perspective, building a 3,000 square foot home, including the grading till we get C of O, is 7 months.
Right, 7 months for a traditional build.
That's the way.
That's what Brett can do it in.
Yeah.
Some contractors are going to take you a year and a half. Some might take 3 months. Currently, I want to say KB Home in this marketplace is building their houses in 160 days.
Yeah, they can, depending on where they're at, but they can get them down to about 3.5 months.
So cost or time is definitely money. So as you're talking to your contractors and how long it's going to take and thinking through that whole process, it's a really important one. And I'm glad you brought that up. What other question you have? Secondary question?
Well, the question that follows that is, I don't want to blow the room up any further, but what are the benefits of building traditional versus panelized, given that it's cheaper and faster?
It's not cheaper.
What is in panels?
Panels.
Yeah, panels are not.
So I want to make sure the group understands there's a lot of different ways to frame a home. You can just take a bunk of lumber and get a bunch of framers, and they show up and they chop it all up on the job site and build your house. It's going to get built how they decide to build it, and it's going to be maybe not as precise. If you go into a factory like Plant Prefab, it's going to be designed and cut exactly as it is. It's not going to be someone looking through the plans and looking at a framer that's trying to figure it out. So there are some variations there. In between that is kind of where our company sits. We design homes, and then we actually build wall panels for homes today and ship them to job sites every single day in California that are just designed like a stick frame home that's cut precisely, but to speed it up so that the doorways are in the right place, the window size is correct, the number of studs are correct, and it's not misusing material, and it is cut in the factory. So there's kind of a rudimentary old school, there's a really advanced, and then there's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. Also with that, though, you have to analyze it as an individual, whether you're a homeowner or a business owner, to find what works for you. We could state rules of thumb all day long, but that doesn't matter as an individual homeowner. It comes down to how much your budget is, and if you can build it for your budget.
Yep.
So there's no simple answer that's just like a traditional home is better because it's built more structurally. It's like it's up to you.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, the triangle of time, quality, cost. that all gets affected. So, you can't apply a rule of thumb saying this method is the best way to do it, because construction is a highly competitive market. Everybody has their own niche and specialty. So one way that somebody's doing it, another person can be doing it differently, but the value that you see in those two different processes is different for each individual.
Yeah.
And designs in there though too
Yeah.
is a thing. The value of individual design, and some people, just you don't need that. It's just like whatever is going to be off the shelf and grab that and put it on the site, et cetera, though too. But that's somewhere in there as well.
And just to add again to the panelized system, for us, we have our in-house team. It's not a turnaround. We don't have a turnaround where we have to keep looking for subcontractors, right? Not alluding to anything for Brett. For like, let's say Brett was to sub out another framing team. If they're not experienced as well as framing, you're going to struggle, or they're going to struggle, right? We already have it in lockdown where we already know what we need to do. And again, once you sign with Plant Prefab, the contract is the contract. I totally agree. No, I think nobody's been touching a lot on it. Being well prepared in the front, up front, making sure you have your designs, what you're going to want in your home and your design. When that happens, there's not too many change orders, right? So again, we're about speed, and that's where we have the best control for.
And just so you know, Prefab, LA County they have 2 lots across from Super King in Altadena, and they are going to put 4 prefabs on the lots. They are sort of going to, probably one of them is Plant, I think, but they're still deciding on which ones in the area. And that way they will be above board on what it really costs, how long it actually took, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think Ernie totally knows this, but I think they're going to call him in July sometime though too. So I think that's just to see how quick, how accurate, and also for the Altadena residents to sort of kick the tires, because you can look at images all day of all these prefab, or you can go out to Hunga or whatever and look at it, but it's going to be on site as soon as they can get them. Yeah.
Question right here.
Question is, I have a structural engineering office in the Pasadena area, and I've been hearing the different components of how to build a new structure, a more resilient structure. And I've noticed that a lot of people are interested in using concrete, like the prefab panel, SIPs, but it all comes down to cost. And I just wanted to chime on that. For the various projects that have been presented to me, it comes back to stick framing, because that is what it is, more traditional, conventional, and it fits their cost. I have a second question for Plant Prefab. Have you guys considered using, or are you guys framing with metal studs instead of just wood studs? We can actually improve.
Yeah, we've done metal studs.
Okay.
We also have our in-house welder for structural.
Okay.
So again, our from the start of our business, we've always catered to custom homes, large openings with 20-foot spans, sliding doors, and et cetera. So we're capable of doing that also.
In the cost, is that slightly reduced or increased when using?
Yes, obviously, because as you know, metal will be cheaper. Yes.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions we have?
Yeah.
Anybody have any more questions right here?
Plant Prefab. For Plant Prefab, can you or have you done passive houses? Is that just in the structural and engineering and architectural drawings?
I'm sorry.
A passive home.
If you wanted a certified passive
Yes.
home.
So actually, one of the sections on Steve. So Steve normally does these presentations. He comes aboard because his home was designed by Ray Cappy, and he lives in Santa Monica and has a lot of friends that lost their homes. We do have. I'm sorry. So we've already done 30 homes that have been certified LEED Platinum or Gold, mostly Platinum, and 13 more homes coming this year that will be Gold.
To answer your question, though, yes, it is in the design on the engineering architect in Title 24.
And one of the good resources also is there is a materials research center. Sure, it's by SCE, but it's been there for years. And they have some pretty good little mock-ups of not only the materials, but energy efficient ways of sort of educating things. It's in Irvingdale. I cannot remember the address itself. And yes, sure, it is SCE, but again, it's been a research center there for years. So it's before all of this.
Did we answer your question? I think we did. Good. What other questions? Right here in the front.
So I'm wondering what your advice is regarding change orders. So my wife and I have long experience in doing remodel. We constantly change our minds. We go and see, some new bathroom design, and
You've been married a long time, right?
How do we deal with not exploding the budget?
One way to do that is deal with allocations rather than a contract for a line item specific. That way, whatever you're choosing to go in there, as long as it's within the budget, it's still the cost that you contract.
So you'd allocate like X amount to tile?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I always say this, try to make all your effing mistakes in the computer is the thing though too. So, on my own house, holy crap, I am on design, probably 19 with my wife and I though too, fully different designs too. So, we're trying to negotiate all of the different, weird things that are with it's a very personal thing. Residential is insanely personal. So
one other method is just to say yes to her.
That's good advice.
As far as for prefab, we don't take in consideration the buffer for change orders. So if anything happens where you happen to tour your home, if you're locally and near our factory, and you decide to change something, you'll understand your cost during that time if we're capable to adjust to it. Most of the, I would say 98% of the time, we'll do that change order. But you got to remember, we're a manufacturer. We're trying to accommodate as many homes as we can.
Io.
That's exactly my next question. For the two gentlemen over here, what is the maximum number of homes you can build? I mean, we lost 16,000 structures across both fires, 5,800 in Altadena. What's the maximum number of structures you guys can build in a year?
So that question is a little bit loaded. Let me explain it to you this way. As the way that a developer would come into a community and build a massive master plan community, such as 15,000 homes, that process is significantly different than what the situation is in Altadena or the Palisades, due to the fact that you have individual homeowners. There isn't one large portion of land that you're sub-parceling and going out to. So coming back to that, there's a lot of different theories on ways to do it. And the only thing that will answer your question is a little bit of time to see who actually comes up with the right answer. I know companies that are looking at purchasing from the individuals and maybe doing 2 city blocks and then putting different plan types on them versus other ones that are looking at, again, coming back to the economies of scale, getting homeowners on a city block to all contract with the same person. The issues, though, are that there's no right answer at this point. Only fair, free market is going to dictate how that outcome comes.
Just to clarify my question, I wasn't asking about that model at all because that will not happen in Altadena, that's for damn sure. So I was actually asking, given the current metrics, how many individual homes by individual homeowners are you guys each separately capable of manufacturing, essentially?
Good question.
So to answer your question, I have 25 custom homes that I'm doing in the Palisades. I can build 25 homes in a year with my current staff.
Thank you.
And you have those already?
Yeah, we're already contracted with them.
As far as for us, same response. It's really hard to really pinpoint on what the true number is. What we're estimating for is like 3 million square feet. That could equal either to 1,000 homes or 1,500 homes a year for us.
And one thing I totally want to emphasize, don't effing panic. I think there is 2 things that are, so LA County right now, you can look on their website there's 800 submittals in At.The. They've only actually approved 43 as of yesterday, I think. So it's 800 out of 6,100 parcels, and then 6,700 structures. Anyway, so there still is there is going to probably be a surge, but it hasn't quite happened yet, though, too. So, at the same time, I know 99% of everybody's insurance only pays for 2 years of rent. And so that also might be a factor that you think about, though, too. And I'm not a total rah ADU person 100%, but there is something interesting about ADUs as well in LA County. They do not count for your like for like. They don't even count. Detached ADU can go first. It doesn't even count for your lot coverage or your GSA, though, too. So it is as if it doesn't exist. It does get taxed differently. It does, which is a lesser tax, et cetera, though, too. But, and it can, a lot of times, if they're prefab, they can get on site fairly quickly as well, though, too. But it's just, another dice roll thing out there as well. And sure, it's more money, though, is the thing. You're building an ADU, and then you're going to try to rebuild your house as well, potentially.
Just before you ask that question, so I want to the state of the housing industry right now. So, like, how many houses can you build? The housing industry is really slow. Okay, so this year, sales of homes in Southern California are off 25% across all the major counties. The builders are building less homes. People can't afford homes. The trades prices are coming down. The need for work, like the companies like myself, big companies are having to lay off employees because things are slow, because things are expensive. So there is an opportunity and there's plenty of labor. There's right now actually more than there has been in a while to be able to get on it. But you got to have to, if Brett can only do 25, like our company deals with 2,000 general contractors in Southern California. So there's plenty of contractors that can do it, but finding your contractor that you trust, that someone's that's either going to be giving you a guaranteed maximum or some level of transparency, and then getting the plans through, like that critical path of getting on it and taking action and making decisions is what's going to speed you up. And that's going to really determine how fast the homes can be built. Would you agree, Brett?
100%.
Yeah.
And contracting's really weird, I would argue, that a lot of times it's not necessarily about the price, it's about the communication. If somebody can, you can understand what the heck is being changed or what the heck is going on or what the heck, they didn't account for or what happened on site, et cetera, that, and they're communicating that well, that goes smoother. Even though you might have saved $100,000 on another contractor that didn't communicate very well, those are nightmare projects a lot of times.
Might take you an extra year.
Yeah, and so a lot of it is bizarrely just you can't factor out communication and personal interaction with contractors. It's a bizarre thing, but it's not just a financial thing that you're
Trust
doing.
your gut too. I would tell you to definitely trust your gut with people. You've got a question right here.
Regarding the ADUs, if your property has a septic tank and you hook that ADU into the septic tank, you then have to build a new modern septic tank for your house, correct?
That's correct. That's a $50,000 enterprise that you're probably looking at. Yep, that's correct.
How much for a porta potty? Yeah, I'm sorry. That stinks. Right here.
Yeah, there it is. One of the things Brett was talking about was having your plans fully engineered. And it's great for structural engineering, usually that's done. But the what I call MEP side, the plumbing and the mechanical, typically are schematic, whether in residential construction is my experience. The architect tells you where the lighting is, but the homeowners always pick the light fixtures at the last minute. The HVAC system is generally design build. It's put in by the contractor. It's pretty simple. How does that affect the cost as you're going forward. I think people would want to know that and understand that that's going to happen typically on residential building.
Let me make sure I clarify your question, because I'm a little hard of hearing with you. You were asking the MEPs, you're having those designed later, and the cost impact of that, or?
Well, usually it's design build, typically.
So the difference between like an architect, what an architect draws and what actually gets done in the field, and like what can be expected there and ways to mitigate. It's kind of that VB talk before.
Again, coming back to that's one of the items on the menu, whether that you pay for the mechanical, electrical, plumbing drawings ahead of time, or if you're on a tight budget and you want that to just be, I would suggest that you spend time with your contractor and understand what exactly he's proposing to give to you. Also, make sure that if you're working with a designer or architect that's providing you finishes, that those finishes fit within your budget. You know, you can get a can light that costs you $50, or you can get a can light that costs you $15. Right. Which one are you going to go with?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's what I wanted people to understand.
Yeah.
Another factor that, you know, as far as MEPs, that's a big deal is just the floor systems. You heard 2x12s and you heard I-joists. There's open web floor trusses, which basically allow the trades to run their mechanicals through the floor systems. That creates ducts in conditioned space, which is part of the Title 24 situation. So you can do and think about smart ways to design and ask, you know, the right questions for your people. Otherwise, people kind of just default to what they know. Brett might default to what his contractors are used to, or meeting the plans.
What I would say to that is, again, coming back to the importance of the value engineering process and coordinating between your subcontractors and your designers, as well as making sure that you're qualifying for the code and Title 24 requirements. Again, all this should be done in advance to mitigate the change orders after, as well as to ensure that you're fitting within your budget.
Good stuff. Right back here in the white hat.
Cash flow.
I'm sorry?
Cash flow.
So majority of us here are, you know, victims of the fire, right? And our money is based on, you know, what we're getting from the insurance, and those money as well are tied up with our lender, right?
Yep.
And so there's a process for us in order to pay the contractor for work that's been completed, right?
Yep.
So how can contractors work with us so that, you know, the inspections and the payment side of it, that will be given enough time to get that money from our lender, go through the inspection and approval process?
So to answer your question, you're going to need to deal with a more complex or sophisticated contractor, somebody that can bring to you, you know, financing abilities. You know, I have certain projects where I get a line of credit, so that way I can use that line of credit to pay for my subcontractors and materials in between my bank draws. And those types of situations are how you'd have to apply to with regard to getting your draws from your lender or from your insurance company. So it's basically finding a way to carry the float with a bridge loan.
Yeah, Brett, that's not a lot of contractors, I would argue, though, too.
Again, coming back to, though, if you do your research, they're out there. There are also lending institutions that specialize in this. You know, just kind of look into that and see if it's feasible for you.
So, Brett, lending, any recommendations?
I would say, you know, the hard part with that is the lending institutions that I use are going to be different than what is available to others. I have a track record with them that allows me to build up more of a sense of worth to them. And so, you know, I would suggest that you start with your banking people and see what they can do for you. Also, if you are maybe a member of like a, what is it? Logix Credit Union or any other credit union, generally they can find better terms for you. You can explore doing a home equity line of credit. I know that you're right now the homes are gone, but you still would have a value to the land and you'd be able to pull against that. There's different ways to do it, but you kind of have to get creative and figure out how you're going to be addressing that. As a developer and contractor, I build sophisticated financing models to allow me to minimize my cash requirements and to manage the cash flow in those times. So you're going to end up paying a little bit more of a premium for a contractor that has that ability, but at the same time, it will, make your process go a lot quicker.
Good stuff. We got another question right here.
Yeah, I just wanted to come back to the value engineering discussion. I think that's really important, but I think when you do it is most important. In my opinion, if you can do it during the design phase, that would be fantastic. After you get a permit, there could be other costs associated with it. So just a word of caution for homeowners, talk to your architect, talk to your engineer, see what the best option is for your home, and then just be aware of those options.
Yeah, 100%. Make sure you do it before you do this plan submittals.
Yep.
When you're trying to go out for a bid, it's a lot easier to get an accurate price when you submit a plan with structural or any kind of engineering. If you're giving someone, like you said, any plan that's only the architectural, that's just the design, you can get a theory of what the bid would be from a contractor. But like I said, when that structural comes in, they will 100% see what's in there, because maybe there's like a secret, steel frame or something weird that's in there that, that the contractor might not know, that they didn't prick the cost, and that will actually, change the end of the price for the homeowner.
Okay. Good stuff. I don't know if we have any more questions. Got one right here.
I'm looking at building a concrete house like SCIP or ICF versus stick built. But to get engineering for concrete build, it's going to cost some money.
Yeah.
What do you recommend in terms of, I want to see where both come in at, get some kind of estimates. I mean, I could go grayscale. What do you recommend in terms of approaching this?
Well, insulated concrete forms are a pain in the ass. I'll quote me on that, but the guys are going to hate me on that. But it is pretty damn thick walls. Is that you got to keep in mind? It's 10 inches minimum before you even finish the stuff. So it's it is a pretty good amount. It's cheap on the physical block, but you're still dealing with concrete. You're still dealing with a ton of rebar, et cetera. The cost per square foot, I freaking have no idea, actually. I know that supposedly it is compatible to 2x6 walls, is what I've been told. So
I actually have some data on that one. So the largest builder in the United States that builds for $100 a foot around the country, they did a project in Arizona where they tested homes, and they were about $200 to do ICF, to do like insulated things. So it was twice the price because of the setups and just the types of trades and all the changes and the thick walls and the thicker jams of the doors and the thicker jams on the windows and the different ways that you have to put the plumbing in and the different ways. So the traditional trades and the traditional methods are where the most of the labor is going to really understand how to do things. But at the same time, you can add and be smart about how to protect yourself, from a fire. And obviously that's a concrete home sounds a lot better. It's just a trade-off and as far as how you get it done. And today it's just not that readily available, unfortunately. But
any idea on the roofing consistency and protection of the ICF versus the SCIP, which is more monolithic and more concrete? Any knowledge on that?
Well, anytime you have a piece of concrete above your head, that's a heavy, heavy, heavy thing in Southern California. So, but yeah, you can easily do normal, just have a rim joist and just put the normal framing or steel joists up there, or steel trusses or whatnot though too. So there's multiple things that you can do on either of those systems.
One of the most common things on the roofs for us, we build a lot of roof trusses. So we are fire rating the tails on the end of the trusses, and there's things you can do as far as, if you were to put regular trusses on the top of a concrete building, you can protect the structure with just design.
And all of those situations that he's explaining are drastically cheaper than doing the concrete roof.
And again, I know I'm going to get killed on this, but like metal roofs, I know they're more expensive. But when you're looking at something that's a $22,000, sort of roof for shingle, and it's something that $45,000 for a metal roof, you got to think to yourself, okay, is that $23,000 that I'm saving? Is that I'm building a freaking thing that's like $750,000 or $800,000 or more. Is that in the long run maybe going to do me better than a 1 hour rated shingle roof? It's up to you. It's a $23,000 question.
The answer is if you can afford it, yeah, great,
Yeah,
go for
totally
it.
do it.
But if it's not within your budget, you need to
Right.
find the means to meet those fire requirements or the extreme fire zone requirements at a less expensive method.
Right over here.
Yeah. Just as a longtime broker who's had clients with land and RTI ready to go deals, in my experience, I haven't checked lately, but in my experience, U.S. Bank had the best programs for construction loans, even loans that converted at completion to a regular mortgage. So looking around, U.S. Bank was pretty strong, and they had more programs in construction loans.
Thank you for that. How are we doing? Any other questions out there? There's a lot of information being passed around.
Okay, and then one more idiotic thing on ADUs. This is what I'm doing at my own house because I know I'm going to run out of money. So I'm putting the ADU in first. It's this huge 1,200 square foot ADU. And then I'm going to leverage off of that ADU to basically build the rest of my house, when I do run out of money, is the thing though too, because then you have the ADU sitting on it's way more property value for, some lending company, et cetera.
Yep.
But again, I know I keep on am the idiot ADU guy or whatever, but that's not necessarily the thing. It's just sometimes it makes sense.
It's
but
a great solution.
That could also get people in trouble.
Yep, right here.
I have been talking to my architects, and then they said that, there's no advantage actually to make like for like.
No advantage to make like for like.
There is no, he actually met with people from the city, and they were told that, at the end of the day, that it should be no advantage except for it may be longer, the process, but not much longer. But cost-wise, we are probably waived the permits.
Yeah,
of
the permits have
Yes.
been deferred, so they have been waived for now. And you're correct that quote unquote the like for like doesn't necessarily have especially if it's an architect, they will what's called self-certified, and that will avoid a lot of the rigmarole with the building departments. So that does go over. Like for like, though, just the freaking assessor's office is freaking crazy with this stuff. So they are, the last time I spoke to these people, they were saying that like for like, they are going to stay within their, quote unquote, plus 120% and not do further taxes on it.
So they won't reassess you, is what you're saying.
They won't reassess, and they're only supposed to reassess, I don't know, the stuff that's not like for like is the thing, and I have no idea what that is. But if you change from 2 bathrooms to 3 bathrooms, they're going to reassess that, quote unquote, bathroom, et cetera. But it's not a square footage thing, though, too. And then like for like is, you're correct, a little funkadelic. Probably the funkadelic thing that's really a pain is it's also in height. So, the hilarious, if you have like 1.5 foot, if 10%, maybe of height that you can, quote unquote, increase though too. So it's, even if you're trying to consolidate on site or something like that, that's no longer like for like as well. So
good question. Did we answer your question?
Yeah, I'm trying to understand if you actually, in terms of long-term, does this make sense to have a like for like if you don't like it anyway?
If you don't like it, do not do it. Do not do it.
But are we going to be off the chart for a long shot? It doesn't seem like it.
As far as the cost to build a home that's the cost to build a home that looked just like your one you had before that's 1,800 square feet versus a brand new design that 1,800 square feet, the costs could be totally different.
Yeah.
So depending on what you do, so the choices and pieces and parts and the cost for
I'm
it.
more concerned about the bureaucracy of getting permits and all that stuff, and whatever you have to pay for.
I would highly recommend that you talk to your city manager, also talk to the people within the planning department and see what help that they would offer. A lot of the politicians have made a lot of claims of expediting things and keeping costs down, but it's up to you as a home buyer or as a homeowner to go in and say, hey, this is affecting me, and they'll listen, and then they can help change the process. But to answer your question, I would say that you're probably ending up about the same on the time frame between whether you change the design or you go with a new design or keep the old one. Your cost will be, a little bit more on the design depending on the architect, whether you're using a new one or an existing one from your old plans. Similarly, you're going to have to obviously incur additional costs for bringing it up to code. So, there's...
You're going to have that anyway.
Yeah, you're going to have a small portion for the new design. But again, coming back to his point, if you don't like the old design, here's your opportunity to make it the one you want.
So the only advantage of like for like,
Exactly the time frame. It was just the time frame that we have for like or not. And my architects went to the city and got that answer from them and said, "It'll make no difference."
Yeah, you're talking minimal. I mean,
yeah, and the cost would be like $1,200 more, maybe.
Yeah,
for paperwork. That's all.
But if you build like for like, do you not have to get it to the current code?
you do have to
You do have to get it to the current code.
Okay, just make sure. I knew that, but I wanted to make
So,
sure.
like for like, though, you can violate all your frickin' setbacks, though. So whatever the heck was already a violation, you can keep that. I would recommend probably not doing that, though, unless you're on a really tight lot. But, most of the fire really was conflagration between one house to another house to another house. They become these little furnaces, and if you're really close to your neighbor's house that doesn't build in a really fire-resistant manner, that could be a major problem, even if, especially if you're just 2 feet away from or on the property line or something like that. So, but yes, like for like does allow you to keep, especially on really funky lots, the weird setbacks and stuff.
Okay. How we doing? Pretty good? All right. Well, hopefully this information was really helpful to you. We want to be resources to you guys. Looks like we may have another question right here in the front.
The presentation on the cost.
You want to get it?
Are they going to be provided? Because I know
Eric?
the architect had different pricing and you had a subset. So are they going to be available, or are we going to put them back up?
Like, I'm fine with distributing my slides if you can, but yeah.
Site. And we've got the recording from the live stream. We're going to clean that up a little bit, and we're going to make that available too. All the previous events too, the recordings are up. And so that information will be available for you. We're adding more information on the website. So if you just go to SCI-Arc's Resilient Futures Task Force website, and you'll be able to find all of that information, and we'll keep on adding it as we have more events that touch on different questions. So we're going to whatever they can share. We'll give it to you with all the caveats, and these are examples and samples that assume a kind of middle ground.
Yeah. What I want to clarify is make sure that you pay attention to the ratios, not the actual dollars. Yeah.
But I just want to say thank you to our 4 presenters. It was an amazing show.